Best value by far. The time brought to you by Megamart is
5 o'clock.
5.
Make sure that CC and clip ready. We need it for the second.
4.
Facts from the Clarendon correspondent coming through. No.
3.
All the international stories in the folder. Go to
2.
Newsreaders all set.
Yeah, man, everything set, everything ready.
1.
From the grid to Morant Point, News Talk 93 FM has got it covered. Across the 7 seas to the 4 corners of the world, it's all captured on the 93 radar. 93.1, 93.3, 93.5, 93.7 and 93.9 on your FM dial. Real News at 5 starts now.
It's time for the 5 o'clock news roundup here on News Talk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee.
And I'm Andre Bernard.
Coming up in this newscast, opposition leader Andrew Holness accuses the PNP of trying to sell the country a placebo.
Priest and social commentator Dr. Ralston Nemard says internal problems in the JLP is a distraction for the party and the electorate.
Prickly Pole Primary School Board accuses Lisa Hanna of using 11-year-old's death as a smokescreen.
And 18-year-old found with gun on public passenger coaster bus.
Now the news in detail. Jamaica Labour Party leader Andrew Holness has accused the People's National Party, the PNP, of trying to sell the country what he says is a placebo. He says the PNP is trying to get an election victory with very little to offer the people in real terms. Holness says instead the PNP is relying on recycled promises, false statistics and false hope.
There is a choice to be made. Do you continue with the PNP for another 5 years, going nowhere? Do you continue with a party that has no vision? You have a job to do. Everyone in this room, every man, woman, and child in this room must take content. Show them the arguments I just give you about the interest rates, about the crime, about the unemployment, about the water. Don't make them trick on this time. Don't make them come with them 3-card trick this time. Don't make them come with the propaganda this time. Don't make them come with the false rhetoric.
Holness says he'll not stand by and allow the Jamaican people to be tricked again. He says Jamaicans should remember what the JLP offered and vote based on facts during the next general election.
I want you to understand, that when you gave us a chance, when things was one way, and them said couldn't happen, we change it, we turn it around. But I want to use a different word, my friend. A word that I hear Hydra use. We created a revolution in Jamaica. When we brought down the interest rates, and hardly you don't get the credit that you deserve, but when we brought down the interest rates in this country, it opened up all kinds of opportunities for business. We cut the interest rates for student loans as well.
JLP leader Andrew Holness speaking at the Grovetown Divisional Conference in southern Manchester yesterday.
And JLP opposition spokesperson on finance, Audley Shaw, is accusing the People's National Party of what he calls political dishonesty for its criticisms of the JLP's performance in office from 2007 to 2011.
For the PNP to try to give the impression that the world began after the Labour Party took over in 2007, they would like to let us forget that in the previous 18 years, they had run the country into the ground. They increased debt substantially, and there was less than 1% average growth in the economy for the previous 18 years. They have more nerve than a false tooth.
Opposition spokesperson on finance, Audley Shaw. The opposition spokesperson was responding to the presentation made yesterday by PNP President Portia Simpson Miller, in which she said Jamaica was fast becoming a pariah in the international community under the JLP. Simpson Miller said up to 2007, when her party lost power after 18 years in office, the economy was growing, while unemployment and poverty rates were below 10%. However, she claims all the positive developments crumbled under the Jamaica Labour Party, and the country was in shambles when the PNP reassumed power in 2011.
Priest and social commentator Dr. Ralston Nemad says the internal problems in the Jamaica Labour Party is a distraction for the party and the electorate.
The JLP has had a lot of internal problems in really trying to get their machinery together, in settling a lot of the internal disputes that have been plaguing the party. And that has been a lot to distract them from really coming up with a kind of comprehensive message that could really be attractive to the electorate.
He asked some questions of the opposition, stating that given the conflicts, the party is in a pickle.
To whom are they talking at this point? Are they talking to the diehards and having lost so much ground? What message can they really bring to them to really get them on board?
Yes.
And I think the task is even more difficult when they have to deal with the independents who are looking at both of the political parties and trying to determine where they should really be aligning themselves. I think they're really in a pickle for the independents that they have to depend on to really get votes, to really give them a fighting chance. It's going to be very hard in the short term.
Priest and social commentator Dr. Ralston Nemad. Meanwhile, member of the Peace Management Initiative, the PMI, Horace Levy, says while the JLP constantly criticizes the PNP and has argued for a new growth path for the economy, its leadership dispute is a problem. In contrast, he says the PNP is united behind Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller.
Their critique of the present government, on that they've been very consistent that it's a no-growth path and that this really should change. So I think that's a positive thing. I mean, the truth, though, is that the electorate, I think, is swayed not so much by the message as by the personalities. And the JLP, of course, have had the setback of having a leadership dispute, which is different from the one that the PNP are having. The PNP are having constituencies, but they're quite united behind Portia.
At the same time, Levy says he's pleased that the JLP has displayed some unity despite being hesitant at the outset.
There has been a certain ambiguity in the past. So they've sort of flip-flopped about it. And over the past few months, they have been pro-IMF. But earlier on, there was quite a bit of hesitance about it and negative talk coming from them. So that one wasn't quite sure where they stood. But in the end, they have come out pro-IMF, which I'm glad of.
Member of the Peace Management Initiative, Horace Levy, speaking with Garfield Higgins on the evening edition.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has announced that $180 million is to be used to buy 50 new water trucks to help sections of the island affected by the ongoing drought. She says several areas of Jamaica are still facing difficulties despite the investments in water distribution. However, she says her administration is committed to lessening the effects of the drought and the new trucks will be purchased immediately. Simpson Miller says apart from investments being made by the National Water Commission, the NWC, her administration is spending $300 million to improve water distribution in areas worst affected by the drought.
Over the last 3 years, the NWC has invested more than $20 billion in some 100 capital projects island-wide. In response to the current drought, the NWC has reactivated dormant wells to add 6 million gallons of water per day.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. She says another $120 million will be spent to bring water into the Kingston metropolitan area over the long term.
You're listening to news on News Talk 93 FM. It's 10 minutes after 5. The principal and board of the Prickly Pole Primary and Infant School in Bensonton, St. Anne are to hold a press conference tomorrow to set the record straight regarding the death of an 11-year-old student last Friday. According to Chairman of Prickly Pole Primary, Vinette Robb, the school wants to address the misleading statements by Minister of Youth and Culture Lisa Hanna following the student's death, and what they say was her blaming the child's death on a planned political protest in the Southeast St. Anne constituency. While the cause of death for 11-year-old Octavia Smith is unknown, preliminary reports are that a number of children were ushered onto a bus by parents and other people to participate in a political demonstration when the child died. And the school's board is insisting that Hannah knew that the protest was aimed at her, and her failure to answer questions related to funds she reportedly said was spent to pave the schoolyard.
Director of Tourism Paul Pennycook has called on local tourism interests to get ready to take advantage of the opportunities to be presented by the opening up of Cuba. Pennycook says with the tourism sector in Cuba expected to boom with the ease of trade, travel and investment, Jamaica stands ready to benefit from this opportunity. Addressing a plenary session on Cuba yesterday at the JPEX trade show, Pennycook said the opening up of the Cuban tourism market will provide more opportunities than threats for destination Jamaica.
We have in fact embarked on having a study done. It's actually taken a little longer than I would have liked, but we're still pursuing it, where we want to get a complete analysis of the state of the industry in Cuba. The state of the industry to include information such as what are their primary source markets, what is the quality and quantum of airlift going into the destination, and from where, the accommodation sector, not only how many rooms they have, but the quality of those rooms, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, etc. And importantly, what sort of incentive regimes are there for potential investors in the industry in Cuba?
Director of Tourism Paul Pennycook. He says while Cuba's tourist arrivals are greater than Jamaica's, the situation presents more opportunities for Jamaica to tap into the benefits. Effective this morning, the United States eased trade, travel and investment restrictions with Cuba, but the economic embargo on the communist-ruled island remains intact.
Chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for Health and Society, Dr. Wayne West, is insisting that the traditional concept of family must be between one man and one woman. He refers to faith, family and freedom as three areas to ensure social and economic development.
We have called it faith, family, and freedom. We're looking at a number of different things. First of all, we would like to put the family into perspective. And by family, we are talking about the monogamous, heterosexual, binary, that's two, that's male and female family, and the importance of that unity for social and economic development.
He also says the relationship between the traditional family and crime and violence is a problem within the society.
If you're going to solve a lot of the crime, social issues in Jamaica, as well as the economic issues, you have to look at the family. There's good research that shows that a heterosexual, monogamous, married man and woman, they make a huge difference in the lives of their children and in the lives of a society.
West argues that the U.S. courts have destroyed the concept of family, while some people endorse this by going against their conscience.
In that, clearly in the United States now, as long as you have some emotional attachment to any person or maybe species, any animal, then I cannot see how the courts could claim that that you can't marry that person as it is. So what the courts in America have done is they really have destroyed the concept of marriage. But in their system, what it is forcing persons who hold sensible views on marriage to do is to act against their conscience.
Chairman of the Jamaica Coalition for Health and Society, Dr. Wayne West, he was speaking on the evening edition last Friday evening.
Lobby group Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, TODS, is calling on Transport Minister Dr. Omar Davies to take strong action against the Transport Authority after a boy was injured in an alleged vehicle chase on Friday. The group's president, Edgerton Newman, says he condemns the action of the inspectors who chased and rammed into a motor vehicle in downtown Kingston. The 10-year-old boy had to be taken to hospital for medical treatment. The Transport Authority has said it is investigating the matter. Newman says Friday's incident is another example of the abusive and unprofessional conduct of Transport Authority inspectors. He says the government should intervene, as there could be serious consequences if nothing is done to put a stop to this kind of behavior. For years, public passenger operators have been complaining about Transport Authority inspectors chasing and crashing into their vehicles. The authority has stated that this kind of conduct is in breach of its policies.
The police last night arrested and charged an 18-year-old youth who they say was found with an illegal firearm while traveling on a public passenger coaster bus. 2 other firearms were also seized in St. Catherine as the lawmen implement their Get the Guns campaign. Police were reportedly on operation along the Mandela Highway at about 9 p.m. when they stopped the bus and searched the occupants. The 9mm pistol was found in the possession of the 18-year-old. His name is being withheld pending further investigations.
2 men died yesterday after the vehicle in which they were traveling crashed into a tree on the Shuttlewood Main Road in Hanover. They have been identified as 34-year-old Daniel Richards of Shuttlewood District and 22-year-old Romaine Murray of Whitton in Westmoreland. The Ramble Police report that about 6:30 p.m., Richards, who is an auto mechanic, and Murray were test driving a Toyota Corolla motor car when the vehicle hit an embankment and collided into a tree. Lawmen responded to calls for help from residents, and both men were taken to hospital where they were pronounced dead. The police are reminding motorists to take all the necessary precautions when driving and to obey all road rules to safeguard life and property.
Operations are back to normal at the U.S. Embassy on Old Hope Road in St. Andrew following a security scare earlier today. Public Affairs Officer at the embassy, Joshua Polachek, says security procedures were activated at the embassy after a bag was dropped off at the entrance. The incident led to a disruption in the flow of traffic, which returned to normal after about an hour. Polachek said the necessary precautionary measures were instituted, but nothing damaging was found in the bag. He said the embassy is open for normal business.
In regional news, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines government is seeking a further $16 million to go towards the construction of the Argyle International Airport. Opposition leader Arnim Eustace says he expects the Ralph Gonsalves administration will ask Parliament to authorize the borrowing of the funds for the long-delayed airport, 2 months after legislators gave the government permission to borrow $4.8 million to go toward the completion of the project, which has missed annual completion deadlines since 2011. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves has said that the airport will be completed and operational by the end of this year.
That's your local and regional news. For international news, let's join the BBC.
BBC News with Kathy Clugston. The general who seized power in a coup in Burkina Faso says he's ready to hand over to a civilian government, as proposed by regional mediators. General Gilbert Diendere, who led a coup by members of the elite Presidential Guard on Thursday, said he wanted to avoid further bloodshed. The Hungarian parliament has given the military the right to use non-lethal force against migrants trying to enter the country. The right-wing Prime Minister Viktor Orban said Hungary had been forced to confront what he called a brutal threat. A senior UN human rights investigator, Carla Del Ponte, says President Assad of Syria should be brought to justice, even if he remains in power. Ms. Del Ponte recalled the case of the former Serbian president, Slobodan Milosevic. He stayed in office after a peace deal in the former Yugoslavia, but was still made to stand trial in The Hague. Scott Walker, once a leading Republican candidate in the race to become President of the United States, is to announce in the next hour that he's abandoning his campaign. Mr. Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, was initially successful at wooing right-wing and evangelical sections of the Republican Party, but in recent weeks he has lost ground to the populist Donald Trump. The presidents of Colombia and Venezuela are meeting in Ecuador. It's the leaders' first meeting since border crossings between the two countries were closed a month ago. A Brazilian judge has sentenced the former treasurer of the governing Workers' Party to 15 years in jail for corruption and money laundering. João Vacari Neto is the closest person yet to President Dilma Rousseff to be sentenced over the case. BBC News.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good evening. My name is Kadeen Marshall and this are the news in the Jamaican language. Joshua Polachek, where the public affairs officer at the U.S. Embassy, said things gone back to normal at the embassy on Old Hope Road in St. Andrew after somebody being Japan back at the front of the embassy this morning. According to Polachek, them been put some more security at the embassy after somebody Japan bag at the front. Him said them check out the bag, but them never find nothing inside of it. Him said this gone about around 11 this morning, and it been caused enough traffic on the road. Him said the embassy open back for normal business. The people that work at the Petrojam Oil Refinery said them going to stop work if management no look on the problem them have with them working condition cause it not safe. This morning, enough of the worker them been a cuss in front of Petrojam. Them a cuss say enough years pass and them not fix up the condition under where them work and them talk with management and nothing happen. One Jamaica Defence Force soldier tell the West Kingston Commission this morning, say 2 police officers shot and killed 2 men were and being tied behind them in a one detention area. This is 1 out of 5 killing, the soldier say him say the same group of police do. Him claim say one at a time, him say 2 of the policemen them laugh after them done kill 1 man. The witness for them called Soldier 3 said the police them killed the first man little after them going to the Tivoli community on May 24, 2010. News from the rest of the Caribbean. The lawyer them who work for Jack Warner here this morning say Faris Al-Rari, where the Attorney General signed the paper for sending him to America for face some charge where them have against him. But Warner lawyer them say what the Attorney General do wrong cause the September 16 date being passed for him sign off on the paper them, so him should have throw out the case. Warner and 13 other people have faced some charge like a fraud cause them use Bandul away for get money when them be in a FIFA. News from foreign. Martin Wickerton, where the owner for Volkswagen, said him support the German Transport Ministry for looking at the car maker emission scandal. Volkswagen share dropped by 18% this morning after some people in America find out that Volkswagen use some things to give wrong information when they test the car. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, find out that some of the software them in the diesel car them are give bad smoke. Volkswagen called back over 500,000 cars in America Friday gone. If they claim them are true, the country have to pay out enough money and some of the top people work with them might go prison. My name Kadeen Marshall, and that's the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newscast 93 FM just gave the news in the Jamaican language.
The 5 o'clock Sports Roundup is brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.
Good afternoon. With your 5 o'clock sports roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM, I am Mikhail Drama Johns. We begin with football. Jamaica Brawlers Group will face Food for the Poor in this evening's KSA Business House Favasad action at 6:30 p.m., while Derrimon Trading Company Limited play UCC at that time as well. Then at 7:15 p.m., JP Tropical Foods play Spanish Grain Store, Progressive Grocers of Jamaica challenge Hatras NTA, Separate Meat Kingston Bookshop Limited, and Sunlight Windows and Doors have kickoff versus Western Sport Limited. All matches will be played at the National Water Commission NWC Playfield in Mona. Further afield, the FA have charged Chelsea striker Diego Costa with violent conduct, while Arsenal's Gabriel is being charged with improper conduct. Also, both clubs have also been charged with failing to control their players during their English Premier League EPL meeting on Saturday, which saw the Blues win 2-0. Arsenal have confirmed they will appeal against the red card shown to Gabriel during the game. And other EPL action on the weekend saw West Ham United end Manchester City's 5-game win streak in the league, beating the leaders 2-1 3-1 on Saturday. Meanwhile, Tottenham Hotspur yesterday clipped Crystal Palace 1-0, Liverpool drew 1-1 with Norwich City, and Manchester United beat Southampton 3-2. Leicester drew 2-2 with Stoke City on Saturday. The top 5 in the tables are currently Man City on 15 points, Man U with 13, West Ham and Leicester 3rd and 4th with a joint 12, and the Gunners 5th with 10. Still on football, U.S. extradition proceedings against former FIFA Vice President Jack Warner have been approved by Trinidad's Attorney General. The U.S. wants to try the Trinidadian on corruption charges after he was accused of accepting millions of dollars in bribes. He and 13 other current or former FIFA officials were indicted this May. Meanwhile, for the women, England today handed Estonia a heavy defeat in their Euro 2017 qualifier as the English won 8-0. Danielle Carter opened in the 3rd minute and closed with a 90th minute netting as she earned a hat-trick, her second goal having come in the 83rd minute. Meanwhile, Fran Kirby earned a brace while Jill Scott, Isabel Christiansen and Joe Potter netted one apiece. And in American football action, that being the NFL, New York Jets will this evening face the Indianapolis Colts in Week 2 action. Jets are coming off their opening game win of 31-10 versus Cleveland Browns, while the Colts buckled to the Buffalo Bills 37-14 in their opening encounter. Colts play hosts this evening. And action yesterday saw the San Francisco 49ers suffering the biggest loss of the day, falling 43-18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers beat the Seattle Seahawks 27-17, Dallas Cowboys won 20-10 versus Philadelphia Eagles, and the Arizona Cardinals trumped Chicago Bears 48-23. Moving on to cricket, following his criticism of the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board's TTCB position on Dennis Ramling being axed as captain of the West Indies cricket team, former Windies Players Association WIPA President Dinanath Ramnarayan has come under fire. Ramnarayan told media he was confused by TTCB's stance on Ramlin's removal. Meanwhile, former Windies captain Sir Vivian Richards hailed Jason Holder for his appointment as Test captain. He says it will be crucially important that the 23-year-old gets the respect of his squad. Richards shot down the idea that Holder was too young and inexperienced for the role. And finally, in tennis, former world number 1 Maria Sharapova will return to action at the Wuhan Open in China starting Sunday. Russia's 5-time Grand Slam winner has been out since injuring her knee at Wimbledon and missed the recent US Open. And she enters the Wuhan Open after accepting a wild card. And that's it for the 5 o'clock Sports Roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM, and I am Mikhail Drama Johns saying stay tuned for the business news and weather report.
The 5 o'clock Sports Roundup was brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio. Time for business news. On the local stock market today, the index declined by 736.27 to close at 96,158.92. The junior market index declined by 6.93 to close at 950.93. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 10 stocks, of which 4 advanced, 5 declined, 1 traded firm. Market volume amounted to 320,000 units, valued at over $4.2 million. Sagicor Group Jamaica was the volume leader. Stocks advancing today: Carib Cement, Grace Kennedy, Sagicor Group, and Scotia Group. Stocks declining: Carreras, JMMB Group, Lime, NCB, and Supreme Ventures. And on the foreign exchange market, the U.S. dollar closed at $118.82, the pound $184.11, the Canadian $90.32, and the euro $135.18. That's business news.
And now for a look at the weather. There is a trough to the east of Jamaica, which is expected to remain across the central Caribbean for the next 3 days. In the forecast for tonight, conditions will be partly cloudy.
To end the news, the main points. Opposition leader Andrew Honus accuses the PNP of trying to sell the country a placebo.
Priest and social commentator Dr. Ralston Nemard says internal problems in the JLP is a distraction for the party and the electorate.
Prickly Pole Primary School Board accuses Lisa Hanna of using an 11-year-old's death as a smokescreen.
And 18-year-old found with gun on public passenger coaster bus.
That's your 5 o'clock news roundup here on News Talk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee.
And I'm Andre Bernard.
The evening